So if matter and antimatter are essentially identical but flipped, why is it that there is more matter than antimatter in the universe? Short story, we don't know yet. This is one of the great mysteries of physics that we're still looking into. I can tell you some of the hypotheses, though. So all things being equal, when the Big Bang happened, it should have made equal amounts of matter and antimatter, and they should have equally annihilated. But about 1 in a billion particles ended up being matter instead of antimatter, and that's why we have a universe. Now, what was happening is that there were particles that were oscillating between existences as matter and antimatter in the weird-ass time period when the Big Bang was happening, and they would experience quantum decay and end up as matter or antimatter. Hypothesis number 1, quantum decay is in fact just fundamentally random. Which means that for every particle in the universe, it would be like flipping a coin. So there's a 50% chance of heads, 50% chance of tails. 50% chance matter, 50% chance antimatter. Now overall, that would make it seem like we should have equal amounts of matter and antimatter. But fundamentally random processes do not necessarily always happen equally. Like if you flip the coin 10 times, it's 50% heads, 50% tails. But you could get 6-4, 7-3. You're not necessarily going to get 5 heads and 5 tails. And so hypothesis 1, if it is fundamentally random, then maybe randomly more particles just ended up decaying into matter. The rest of the antimatter particles annihilated, and the matter was what was left over. If you flip the coin 10 times and you got 6 heads and 4 tails, and you got rid of 4 heads and 4 tails, then you end up with 2 heads left over. Hypothesis 2, some unknown intervener caused certain particles to definitely decay into matter. Everything had a 50-50 chance of being matter or antimatter, but some force pushed through the particles and ensured that some would decay into matter. That would be like if you flip the coin 10 times, but 1 out of those 10 times someone caught the coin and put it on heads. What that force is, we don't know. Hypothesis 3, it's just not an equal chance. We have seen particles oscillate between matter and antimatter, and we've seen certain particles prefer decaying into matter. And even if they preferred that just a tiny fraction of the time, that would create more matter than antimatter. Hypothesis 4, there are different regions of the universe where matter and antimatter dominate. And somewhere beyond our observable universe is essentially a universe that we can't interact with made of antimatter. Hypothesis 5, the universe was generated in a universe-anti-universe pair, and in our universe time flows forward. But if you wanted to get to the anti-universe, you'd have to basically travel back in time past the Big Bang, and then after that, you would end up moving forward through time in the anti-universe. All these hypotheses are just that. They're hypotheses. None have been proven, and we don't have a final answer yet. But they're interesting to think about, and more research is always being done.